In this video, we will provide an overview for the naming scheme, or nomenclature, for molecules and compounds. Nomenclature is essentially how we name molecules. There are three different types of compounds that we will be looking at in this chapter. We have ionic compounds, non-ionic inorganic compounds, and a series of simple organic compounds. For the ionic compounds, these are compounds that involve a molecule that contains a metal and a nonmetal, or a polyatomic ion which is comprised of several nonmetals. There are two different naming systems for ionic compounds, and these rules are based on the metal, whether there is a single charge that the metal can have, as is commonly the case for our column 1 and column 2, our alkali and alkali earth metals, and for multivalent. Those are ones that can have multiple different types of charges, as is the case with most of the transition metals. Then we have our non-ionic inorganic compounds. These essentially are just most of the compounds that are not going to be classified as organic and that do not contain metals. So essentially these are a molecule that contains two nonmetals. Then we have a series of simple organic compounds, which is meant to give you a glimpse into what you will see in an organic chemistry class. These are molecules that contain a chain of carbon atoms along with hydrogen. If you take organic chemistry in later courses, you'll find that there is a lot greater variety to the different types of naming and nomenclature than we will be covering in this particular chapter. We will also look at oxyanions and some other common polyatomic ions that will be used when we're working with our ionic compounds. When you're trying to determine the name of a molecule or compound, it's easiest to think of it in terms of a flowchart. First, what you should do is look at the chemical formula and determine, are you dealing with an ionic, a molecular, or an organic compound? Ionic compounds, again, are those that have both a metal and a nonmetal. Our molecular compounds are going to be those that have only nonmetals. And the last group will be our simple organic compounds, which will consist of a certain number of carbon atoms and twice that number plus 2 of hydrogen atoms. So we'll follow a chemical formula that agrees with the general term CnH2n plus 2. So if we're working with an ionic compound, what we would first ask ourselves is, will the metal have only one type of ion, or can the metal have multiple different charges to it? If there's only one type of charge, then we will follow one path. If the metal can have multiple different types of charges, then we follow a different path. We will go over both of these in subsequent videos. For molecular compounds, which again are those that contain only nonmetals, there is a particular naming scheme in which there will be a video that covers that. And then finally, for our simple organic, there's a series of names for these. All of these naming schemes will be covered in subsequent videos.